Alrighty, you guys, welcome back to another little video where today we are going to be showing you what I have been working on for quite some time now. So, this is my old water-cooled build. This is using the X79 Green motherboard, or the Chinese X79 Green motherboard, using 64 gigs of ECC registered memory, and the E5 1620V1. With a R9 290 as the graphics card. Now, this is not a bad system that I had put together here. It was actually really fun to do, and it taught me a whole heck of a lot about water cooling, and taught me a whole heck of a lot about just computer stuff in general that I never really knew about, being temperature almost completely leading to stability. But it doesn't look good. Let's be 100% honest here. This does not look very good. The cables are green when I want it to be a black and red theme. The motherboard is a little bit more green than what I would like. And it just doesn't really make sense for me to leave it like this. So I didn't. This is footage from my last video where I had talked about this system being water-cooled. So let me show you what it turned into. Alrighty guys, say hello to Bloodlines. So Bloodlines was kind of the name that I came up with because I wanted this thing to have this kind of like black and red aesthetic with a really just gorgeous build, with a gorgeous build design that is supposed to reflect a little bit better of what I want my channel to be about. Now, I kind of feel like I'm having a little bit of an identity crisis here, because there are three things that I really like. I like e-waste computers, being stuff like the Dell Precision T3500 and T3600. I really like these Chinese motherboards and overclockable Xeons and that kind of stuff, as well as doing computer customization and more modernizing of older hardware. So that was kind of like what I wanted to do, is I wanted to take all three of those things and kind of cram them into one. Granted, though, I guess it really doesn't take into account, like, the old workstations, but still. This build is honestly what I was truly aiming for from the get-go. I made some upgrades to this machine primarily to help, not necessarily future-proof myself, but to make the transitions that I'm going to be going through here a little bit easier. Now, what do I mean by that is I am going to try and fully start trying to do my videos in 4K resolution. On top of that, I'm going to be getting a new monitor. Now, as much as I like using my e-waste IPS display monitors, I really do think that with the power of my computer, I should have a bigger, better monitor, one that actually reflects what my PC can do. I've been gaming at 1440 by 900 or 1600 by 900 now for a very long time, and as much as I'm enjoying it, I think it's time that I upgrade to either a 1080p display, an ultra-wide 1080p display, or a 1440p display. So let's go over the upgrades that's kind of going to allow me to transition into doing bigger and better content. Now, the first major upgrade that I did was to the CPU. I took the E5 1620 version 1 out, and I put in the E5 1650 version 2. Now, the E5 1650 version 2 is sitting right between the i7 4930K and the i7 4960X, essentially in performance per, performance per clock speed. Or I guess just clock speed in general, because they all share the same performance per clock speed. This CPU is, I've said overpriced in the past, but I'm kind of regretting saying that. Yes, it is more expensive than if I were to have purchased something like the E5 1650 version 1, but that's the thing, is this CPU was not designed, or at least in my use case, it's not for the best price to performance, it's not the best frame per dollar. It's about having a comfortable user experience, and that's kind of what I'm getting with the CPU. Not to mention the fact that it is kind of the happy medium point for core speed plus core count. This is a 6-core, 12-threaded Xeon, and I was debating whether or not to go up to the E5 1680 V2. There was really only one little problem with that. If I were to upgrade to the 1680 V2, I would be able to have 8 cores and 16 threads, but those 8 cores and 16 threads probably wouldn't be able to clock themselves up to 4 GHz. They probably wouldn't even be able to clock themselves up to 3.9 or 3.8. It would most likely be sitting at 3.5 to 3.7. Now, I can't say that for a fact because I haven't personally experimented with it, but from what I was able to find online, people talking about using these Chinese motherboards and that particular CPU was typically sitting between 3.5 and 3.7. And with that being said, let's move on to the graphics card. What's really going to allow me to go for a bigger, better panel? I was using the R9 290 for a very long time, and I still genuinely like that graphics card. I actually have it sitting in my secondary rig that I'm going to be doing a fun little overclocking video here pretty soon. And I have absolutely no problem with the way the AMD software works, simply because I've gotten used to it and not needing to deal with the massive frame loss when starting to record, stream, or render things. I am kind of convinced that AMD is going to be the better graphics card company moving forward in my use case. Not to mention the fact that because the graphics card that I picked has very, very good compute power, it essentially gives me the ability to render out videos faster in better quality. Now, the graphics card that I went with was the R9 Fury X. I found a $15 acrylic water block for the R9 Fury X on eBay, and the R9 Fury X itself for about $160. Now, yet again, not the best price to performance, not the best frame per dollar, but for my particular use case and for the kind of style that I was building this computer for, it made the most sense. And let me tell you, this graphics card seriously kicks butt. At 1080p, 1440p, and even entry-level 4K gaming, this graphics card has absolutely blown me away with its performance. And just to end everything else off, I'm happy with the way everything came out. The way the case looks, the way the case is set up, the way the system is set up. The only thing that I would like to do now that I haven't done is upgrade to an NVMe SSD for my main boot drive, because I have that slot open, and every time I look over at it, I just think I should really populate that and use it to its fullest extent. And with that being said, this is Bloodlines. This is what I wanted my system to be. This is how I wanted it to look. This is what I wanted. And it was not the best frame per dollar. It is not the best budget system, but I'm okay with that, because this thing is far, far and away more powerful and more comfortable to use than any system I've ever used. So I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Have a good night.